People like me that came from like a JavaScript or just like, I know React or I know Vue or I know Svelte or something, and I want to try out this Elm thing. I wanted to kind of speak their language and come from that perspective.
Hey folks, welcome back to Elm Town. I'm your host, Jared M. Smith. We'll be visiting with Ryan Haskell today. We're going to talk about teaching, learning Elm, but first, let's talk about our sponsor, Logistically. At Logistically, we make intuitive software to help logistics teams make better decisions and improve efficiency. We built the front end for all new features in Elm. If you're interested in our mission and enjoy writing Elm, please drop us a line. elmtown@logisticallyinc.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. Now, Ryan. Ryan is a senior software engineer at Brilliant. He was on Elm Town 62, the map to Elmland, last year. Check that out. He published his Welcome to Elm series and other Elm learning videos on his YouTube channel at Hey Ryan Haskell. He is the author of Elm packages and tools, including Elmland and Ryan-Haskell/date format. There are a bunch of others too. Check them out. He rewrote his blog again, Ryan.town. More on that later. He took a gap year from September 2023 to August 2024. So hopefully we can talk about that too. Ryan, welcome to Elm Town.
Yo, thanks for having me back. Excited to be here. Dive into it.
Yeah, awesome. I'm excited too. We were starting actually to catch up a little bit before we started recording, and I kind of put the brakes on that. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about was your gap year. I wanted to know kind of how that went, what your reasoning was there. Could you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, so a lot happened last year. I turned 30. I got married. Yeah.
Congrats.
Thanks. Yeah. Look, I'm off the market. But yeah, no, it was a big year. And yeah, I was working at Vendor. Really wonderful folks there. I actually was just hanging out with Wolfgang in Milwaukee last week. But yeah, I wanted to take a break, and I figured if there is a year where it would be appropriate for me to have like a midlife crisis and just take a year off work, it would be when I have no kids, no mortgage, and take a swing at, maybe starting my own business or see where that went. About halfway through, I realized that I miss people, and it was a bad idea to be alone for a year. But no, it was a lot of fun. I made a video game and released it on Steam using Godot engine. Have you heard of Godot engine?
I've heard of that. I haven't used it though. How was that?
I had never made a game before. It was incredibly easy to learn, a lot of fun, very visual learning experience. The editor is kind of built in, so you code and you kind of hit run. It's a very, very fun thing. I think all Elm developers will enjoy clicking buttons and making cubes, have physics and stuff. It was really cool. But yeah, so I did that. I wrapped it up. Right after my honeymoon, I started my first day of Brilliant, and I've been there ever since, and that's been great.
Wow, awesome. Okay, well, we'll talk about Brilliant a little bit, but first, kind of going back to this building the game, what language were you using? A programming language, I assume, as well, or was it all point and click? And
yeah, it was. So Godot has a language called GD script, and it's kind of like Python. It's got a bit of it's like optionally typed. It's a really like well-designed language for games, at least. As a beginner, like coming into it, it was like really. It kind of had the init update view pattern, but instead of like Elm's init update view, it was like ready. They had a ready function that would run. They have a process function that was the update. So ready was init, process was update, and then view was just kind of the rest of the game engine. But yeah, you make your game out of little nodes. So the game I made was like a little car game. It was like a racing game. There's different mini games and things. So like a car would be a node, but also your main menu would be like a 2D UI node. So you basically compose all these nodes and swap them in and out, and that's kind of how the game development went. And then you could add little scripts to nodes.
Cool. Okay. And so did you have to build any physics, or was it more like tweaking existing physics logic?
There was a physics engine built in, and so what you would do is you would attach. So if I had a car, you'd kind of have like almost like a folder, almost like a div, I guess. And then inside of that node, you'd have like, this is my car, like the visuals for it. This is like the physics object for it. And then you would say like, hey, like when the game starts, like put my car in the scene, and then you would have on the nodes all the settings. You'd say, oh, this weighs this much, and then the physics engine would take care of it, and you'd say how bouncy the car was, and what happens when they hit forward. You'd apply forces. But yeah, it was all built in. It was really cool. Yeah, all the input, all the physics, all the audio, all kind of comes in the box with it, which was great for someone that had no idea what they were doing. They just wanted to make something fun to play.
Right on. So, what was the name of the game?
Turbo Champ. Turbo Champ was the name of the game. It's horrible, but it was a video game, and I did it. I released it, and I'm like, first video game out of the way. Yeah, it's on Steam. Yeah, it has like Steam achievements. I got like all these like free 3D assets and audio, and it was my job to glue them all together and make them like an actual game with like mechanics and things. But yeah, I tried to do a racing game, so I thought it would be easier. Because initially I was like, I'll make an RPG, and I'm like, that's gonna take 5 years. So yeah, I tried to make a racing game, and then I realized how hard like making driving a car feel good is. Just like telling a computer how to not do that bad, and like how not to flip you over in an unsatisfying way. So it was also very hard. But it was fun. I'm glad I did it. I'm gonna stick to my day job. I think is a big one, and do the video game stuff for fun, because I definitely did enjoy the process of building it.
As you were talking about this, building the feel of driving a car, it made me wonder, did you use any of the AIs for training it?
No AIs. There was some stuff. There were some resources out there for specifically for making bots, which were out of scope for me. I just kind of did like local co-op, but no AI. It was a lot of like physics, like diving back into like, it was like spring mechanics on the wheels. But there were like a bunch of different approaches you could kind of take, like high level approaches. One is I was telling you how a car can have like a physics body and it can have like a visual. One was you make the physics body like a marble, and you basically glue the thing on it. And that had like some nice like trade-offs where the car can't flip because it's always a sphere. It's always on its like upright.
Oh, wow.
So that was actually the first pass of the game, and maybe the current version. I don't remember what I landed with, but I took like 2 months just to like play with all these different like variations. One was like each wheel was like a spring, so it kind of like balances itself out, and you could control the stiffness. That's a little bit closer to actual, like when you have actual tires. But yeah, there were so many things to explore. And ultimately, I'm like, Mario Kart did it better. I think whatever they did, I wish I had.
So you used HI, not AI, human
I
intelligence.
used HI, yeah.
Yeah.
Either superior or inferior, depending on what problem you're solving.
Yeah.
I definitely used AI. I still use AI this way, where if I have something like stupid that I don't want to do, like how do I get the thing? Like I have this, I need to calculate this. Give me the function that does that, and it would write that for me in GDScript, and I'd plop it in. A telltale sign if I do it is if I ever submit code to a private repo with semicolons at the end of it. That was me not deleting the semicolons ChatGPT gave me. So you can just search for semicolon. That's not my work. That's a robot. But yeah.
Right on. Yeah, you have to put it in your default context to don't give me any of those semicolons.
I think it keeps me honest. I kind of like it. I like that it's like this is this guy's code. This guy's name is ChatGPT.
Right on. Okay. So this wasn't your first game, though. You have written other games. Have you written any racing type of games in the past, or what?
Yeah, never racing and never 3D. I had made little 2D games. Like the way I learned Elm was there was a game called Seven Seas that my dad had on his Palm Pilot when I was a kid, and I loved that game. And it was the little pirate one. It's up on it's up on Ryan Town. It should be on rh.dev too. I haven't taken down my old sites, so they're both just kind of floating around. But yeah, that was my intro to Elm. Was actually making a game, just to get a feel for like the init update view stuff. And that was fun. And yeah, Unblank,
Hmm.
which was a game jam I did where it's a little RPG where you run around. That is my favorite game I've ever made, and I want to make something like that again. That's like side project number 4. I gotta constrain myself. So we'll do that later. But yeah, I've been playing a lot of RPGs lately, and I'm like, I want to make one, and just like not have like money pressure or time pressure, just like vibe and share stuff with people.
Yeah. Maybe the next gap year.
The next gap year, I never again. I love working with people, dude. It's so good. It's so nice to come into an office and just not an office, but come into like yeah, just like start your day and just have people to chat with and joke around with and like actually like build something together. That's fun for me. I didn't know how much I love that until I didn't have it.
Well, there you go. That's the gift of it.
Isn't it beautiful? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a beautiful outcome.
That's great. Okay, so you took the gap year, you worked on building the game. Now you've started at Brilliant, which I do want to talk about. But another thing that you did, which I think this was during the gap year, was write the Welcome to Elm YouTube series. Were there any challenges that you faced when you were trying to put together the material for that? Of like, how do I order this? Were you building like, because it seemed like you did a good job of like what you talked about built on the existing knowledge from the previous video. So I don't know if like you had all of that in your head already, or if that was something that you planned out ahead of time.
Yeah, totally. I think that was weirdly enough the most time consuming part of the recording, like of those videos. I thought back to conversations I'd had with folks in the Elm community. Like I went to Elm Europe back in the day in the 2018, and I was lucky enough to be sitting next to Richard Feldman. We had like a dinner afterwards with a bunch of folks, and he was telling me all of his opinions on that we should do things like this, that, and this. And one of the things that stuck with me was like something I've heard him say a lot, like listening to podcasts with him on it too, is like the hard part for people is like currying in JSON decoders or whatever.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I took away from him was adding the types later. I kind of had like an audience in mind when I sat down to like organize like how are these docs gonna go, where I'm like the people like me that came from like a JavaScript or just like I know React or I know Vue or I know Svelte or something, and I want to try out this Elm thing. I wanted to kind of speak their language and come from that perspective. And so some of that was inspired by the Elm Guide, and some of that was inspired by just this notion of like the type system's optional. That's like a really beneficial thing for teaching. You could just kind of like gradually work your way into stuff. But yeah, that was I had like a little book. Maybe it's this book. I'll probably find the page. But I just basically just wrote out like all of the lessons, the order they'd go in. And then yeah, I started just recording. That was definitely the most time consuming part. Recording it, you might be able to tell by the production value. Maybe I shouldn't say this. It took 2 days. Like the whole course, I just like buckled down and I hit record and I just did it in 2 days.
Well, that sounds like that's good because you have both the planning ahead of time, but you also have sort of the context in your head, right? Because as you're recording, you're doing it across a couple of days. So it's not like you record one, wait a couple of weeks, and then you're like, where was I at on that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, honestly, that is a cheat code for sure. Just like remembering what happens, or like the very last thing you said in the last video.
Yeah. And they're pretty bite sized. I think they're around 5-6 minutes each video.
Yeah, I try to keep them around 5-10 minutes. There's some that just went really long, and near the end where we start diving into like I think what I think is the interesting stuff, what I think you like can't find in the Elm Guide really, which is like the architecture stuff. That was the thing I really wanted to exist for free somewhere online.
Oh, nice. Okay. But you build up to that. So your audience, you said, okay, it's going to be JavaScript devs that are coming from some other ecosystem like Vue or React. And then you kind of went from there. And then the goal was to get all the way to the kind of Elm architecture. And of course, Elmland is at the end as well. So
yeah, what was cool was showing them how to build their own Elmland. It was like a part of it too, because like it's like magic or whatever. But I just like type Elmland's big idea is it just like types the inline code for you. So I wanted to show like the ideas behind the tedious stuff. So yeah, if you watch that course, you should be able to make your own, I guess, Elmland competitor or whatever. But you can make your own framework, which I don't advise because documentation's the hard part. Something like that. But you'll at least understand if you're using a framework like Elmland or for even Elm Pages, just kind of like the basics of like how pages are getting connected and how shared state can be passed through them and that kind of thing.
I was going to talk a bit about the Elmland guide and the examples in there because I think those are really good material. And so your Welcome to Elm series is not the first time you've been through teaching people, and maybe even Elmland is. And I don't know how that corresponds with the Advent of Code series that you've done in previous years.
Yeah. Advent of Code's always been chill because it's like I take a break from like the projects I'm working on just to like do like 10 arbitrary problems in Elm and just like talk through it, which is like a fun change of pace. Yeah, I think Elm SPA, Elm Advent of Code, and then Elmland was like the order of like educational stuff for me that I put out there.
Okay. So
But
you'd
yeah.
already written a version of the Elm SPA tutorial in written form, and then you went through a couple of Advent of Code and then Elmland, and then now this Welcome to Elm series.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. And it's funny because I forget the stuff I do. I'll like put it out there and then someone will bring it up. I'm like, oh yeah. Someone will reach out to you and be like, hey, like you want to be on Elm Town to record your Welcome to Elm? I'm like, oh yeah, that was awesome. That's I forgot I did.
That was this year.
Yeah, that was this year. So that gives you a sense of just how all over the place I am in terms of remembering what Elm stuff I do.
Yeah, sure. You used the Elm guide as some of your inspiration for this as you were going through it. One thing that I immediately think of whenever I think of teaching Elm to beginners is Richard's ElmConf 2017 talk, Teaching Elm to Beginners. Have you seen that, or were you there, or do you?
I've seen it on YouTube. I wasn't there for the actual talk. I think that might have been the year before I started going to ElmConf. That was the first one ever, right?
2016, I think, was the first, and then 2017
Cool.
was the first year that I went.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I definitely saw it. I don't know if I reviewed that. I was doing a bunch of like random research through like old conference videos too, as a part of it, but I don't remember if that video came up or not. Yeah, was there anything
Sure.
that stuck out from that reminded you of it?
Well, it's just the first thing whenever I think of teaching Elm. Of course, Richard has other materials for teaching Elm, but that one in particular, just thinking about like that you build on existing knowledge as you're going through. And so I think that I noticed that in your videos, and it seemed like you were very purposefully only talking about the things that you had already talked about. And so that's what made me think.
Yeah, totally. There was I had a physics teacher in high school where he was a little bit meta when he was teaching physics, where he was talking about is like, yeah, I'm gonna like lie to you for a little bit, but like I need to for you to like get this concept so that we can teach you the real stuff later. But the whole like friction is negligible or whatever, like that. There was a lot of that energy in the video where I'm like, I think one of my favorite videos of the course was one where we just take a React component, I just translate it to Elm, and I just do it like literally. And I don't do it like the Elm architecture way where we have messages and whatever, but I just say like, yeah, like we had JSX and now we've got Elm code. And then at the end of the video, I think I say something like, you're probably screaming right now if you know Elm, but like I swear in the next video, like we'll make this like the Elm architecture way. But yeah, there was a lot of that, very intentionally just like omitting information when it would be like harmful to someone trying to like wrap their head around it, around like a new concept.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of brilliant. And in some ways, I wanted to bring this up. I think you kind of break the rules, right? That's what we're talking about. Like when you say like someone that already knows would scream, you're using slightly unpedantic terms, statement instead of expression in some places. variable instead of constant. But I think that's kind of meeting people where they are is the phrase that I think about with that. Like, just the way that you are using those, and you do that with Elmland as well. One of the things that I noticed in there is you use the term props
Yeah.
instead of model. And so I think you're definitely like clearly targeting a specific audience, but I think that's helpful because you're taking away one layer of confusion and kind of relating it to something that someone already knows.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's like sometimes when designing that like Elmland or just like designing Elm code in general, like it's like, do I call this settings? Do I call this config? And a lot of the times what I've learned to do, what I used to do like LMSP days was I would be like, all right, let's start from first principles. What's like the best word for everything? What's like the from my perspective is like at the time like a 20-something-year-old engineer, what is like the word for it? And what I started to do is like kind of I guess like humble myself a little bit and be like, I'm not the first person making a framework. I'm like, what are people doing? And just kind of like that energizes me in a way because it's like I can kind of work with the rest of the JavaScript community in a sense and be like, all right, cool. Like we're all going to agree that like when you pass in settings to a component, we'll just call that props. And then when you go to spell through React or Vue or Elm, we can all kind of just agree on the same words. So yeah, I definitely think that's like a fun thing to do when like designing stuff. If your audience is people that are familiar with those tools.
But even if they're not, if it's consistent, then, and it makes enough sense, right? Like it's not just confusing
totally.
like foo. Foo has never made any sense. Any example using foo, I have to spend 3 times as long trying to understand it. But yeah, if it somewhat makes sense, like, yeah, we just stay consistent. I know that you use the kind of controversial C word in Elm where you use components, to describe, those things.
Oops.
Yeah. Well, again,
yeah,
it's
the
meeting
same
people where they
energy.
are. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's cool if you look at different frameworks. You'll kind of see pages, layouts, components is like a pretty common staple. I think some frameworks will be like routes instead of pages, that kind of thing. But yeah, if you give people a file structure and they can just look at the folders and they're like, oh, okay, like this is where my stuff goes. I think that's a little bit more helpful than like, well, actually, we don't do that here. It's like, well, we kind of do. We kind of do it here. It just isn't exactly the same, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as long as at some point you explain kind of the trade-off, right, of why not everything needs to become a nested Elm architecture, then yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I guess the next thing is, well, actually, I wanted to make one more comment about that. There's section 1.5 advanced functions in the Welcome to Elm series. And you say this one thing that I just love, and I just have to share it on here. It's around the 3-minute mark. You say parentheses are like hugs. And, and I think that's just really Ryan coming out there. And, and that's the kind of stuff that just, I think even if you already know Elm, or even if you're not even that interested in Elm, it just makes it like interesting and fun to listen to. So thank you for that.
You got it. Yeah, totally. No, it's funny when I pair with people. Sometimes I'll say like, give that a hug or whatever, or it's just like it needs, because it's kind of like the feeling of just like bringing something all in, and it's just like one group at the end. It's like a little huddle. I think it's adorable, and it's important. It's an important a verb to use in that context.
Yeah. And I guess,
I'm glad you like that one.
I guess for folks who maybe are learning Elm and might not know what we're talking about, in a lot of other languages, particularly C-based languages, you'll find that when you call a function, you wrap that in parentheses, the arguments in parentheses. But in Elm, we don't do that. We don't have a comma. We just have space, argument, space, argument. But then if you're trying to nest one function call inside of another function call, you need to give it a little hug. So that's what those parentheses do. They help kind of set the different levels of what's the word I'm looking for here?
Yes, group arguments together.
Yeah, group things together, and so you can kind of just give a little hug. It's nice. I have a question from Wolfgang here. Quote, where do you find inspiration when it comes to creating new things in Elm or for borrowing ideas? End quote.
The JavaScript community it's really popular for a reason. And there's probably plenty of reasons. My take is that they do a really good job of like the ecosystem does a really good job of like just meeting like random needs. So like there's a UI library called Chakra, where it's like React components, but it's kind of like Tailwind, and it's basically like kind of like Elm UI in a way. But you can just kind of like it's crazy how fast people can spin things up. So what I like to do is I like to watch YouTube videos of someone building something in React and TypeScript or building something in Svelte, and just like I don't know, I get excited when something's really nice, and then I also get excited when something's really bad because I'm like, cool, like there's an opportunity over here, and there's like inspiration. So yeah, like there's a GraphQL library that came out of Vendor that was initially inspired. Matthew Griffith really led the charge on the Vendor Elm GQL for those who are familiar or unfamiliar with it. But before that was a package, it was like a conversation at Blissfully when we were together. And I was like, you guys, like there's this thing where people are just writing GraphQL like normal people, and then it generates the Elm code. Like that's crazy, right? That was from me watching a video by Ben Awad. I don't know how exactly I pronounce his last name, but it's AWAD from years ago, where it was just a video of him just building a full app. And he was writing like GraphQL inside of a string, and it was generating TypeScript types. And I was like, it would be cool if we just wrote GraphQL inside of its own files, and it just generated all modules. It was something that had aligned with like a problem I was facing at the time too, when I was at work, where we had backend engineers that would have their GraphQL editors, they'd write their queries, and then they'd be like, okay, get someone to translate this to Elm so we can have like the selection sets and everything work. All like the kind of decoder-ish stuff. But it's really cool if we can just copy, paste it, like we test it in the client and then it works, we paste it, and oops, we have an Elm module. So that was a really cool thing. So yeah, that's a very long-winded way for me to say, yeah, I definitely look outside of the JavaScript community to try to find inspiration and try to bring back the fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm glad that you do that, because I think for me, when I go out there, I get overwhelmed. So
Yeah,
there's
totally.
so much. I could spend the rest of my life just looking at all the new shiny things. So
Totally. And I think it depends what environment you're in too. I recently stopped using Twitter. That was very good. That was a very good move. I feel like there's a lot of like yelling of like this good, you bad, feel bad, that kind of energy. A very competitive space, the marketplace of ideas. So yeah, it is nice to kind of do it on your own terms and be like, I'm just going to learn about JavaScript just to see what's going on and just kind of like divide. I don't have to ship anything in production. I don't have to like wrangle with my NPM install isn't working. Like I don't have to worry about it. I'm safe. I'm cozy. Got a cup of hot cocoa, and I'm gonna watch someone make a website. A different vibe for sure.
sure. Yeah. So you look out in the larger JavaScript ecosystem in the community there and see, hey, what are folks doing that's kind of interesting, like Chakra or like Ben's GQL, which we can find that video and link to that. I think that would be good. And then find the things the places where maybe that's missing in Elm and bring that in. I like that approach. That's cool. You remade your website. You remade it. So what with Ryan Town now, Ryan.town, is that, what's that written in? Tell us about that.
So that is written in Elm, and it's an architecture for a website that I guess you'll hear it first, Jared. Your fans will hear it first. Elmland is getting a big upgrade. Historically, it's only really been useful for single page apps. It was kind of like a spiritual successor for Elm SPA. But there's some types of websites that I want where I kind of want something closer to Elm pages, but just a little bit dialed back, a little bit more focused on just like markdown content. So that website is written in Elm, kind of by hand with the architecture that I want to encode in the Elm framework. So yeah, there's markdown files where I write my blog posts. There's Elm code that kind of serves, like the pages kind of serve as templates where every page has access to that markdown. And then, yeah, it generates HTML files for each page so that you can get good SEO and stuff like that. So if you ever go to Ryan Town blog, you can, view page source and you're going to see all the meta tags. And it doesn't do any server-side rendering. That's like one design trade-off. But it basically does server-side rendering, real-time rendering of the meta tags for SEO, and then it just does everything client-side with Elm once the page kicks in. But for anyone listening, I encourage you to go to my website and disable JavaScript and see what little Easter egg I put there, because there's something called a no script tag, and it's an opportunity to have a lot of fun. So I check that out. But yeah, because everything's
Nice.
client rendered, you don't want to show them nothing if your users are visiting and they don't know that you built it with some weird functional programming language client only. But yeah, the goal is with that website is, with most of the things I build, I get really excited about just having a link I can share with a friend, and I don't get really excited about hosting bills. So single page apps can be statically hosted on like Vercel and Netlify for free, GitHub Pages, what have you. And so I wanted my blog to be the same thing. I basically want everyone to have their own website and be able to build it. And the reason I chose Elm is not because I think it's the best language for websites, but I think it's a great language to use if you want to have content that is to just seamlessly you mix in like interactivity. So some of my blog posts have like little visualizations in them that are made possible by Dylan's work on Elm Markdown. I can have my Markdown, I can drop in a little Elm, like a WebGL canvas, and then I can keep, going through concepts. So yeah, once Outland is in a good place, I want to do a little bit more of like blogging like that, where I can just, hey, I learned about this random thing. Here's a cool article with some like visuals, and it's all in one language, which then be fun and free to host, which is very good.
Very nice. Yeah, that's great. Cool. Well, looking forward to that, and definitely got to check out this little Easter egg in Ryan Town.
For sure.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Brilliant. How is that? You've started in August, September this year?
Yeah, started in August. That's been great. They sent me this really weird mug. I don't know if the cans can pick up, but this isn't even our like latest art style. But this says Spear Dog. My camera's not doing a great job. But they just have they had like a really weird aesthetic, and when they sent me this, I'm like, this is the right place for me. I think having a large round dog with force lines coming out of it, it's a good vibe. But yeah, Brilliant uses Elm. For those of you who don't know, Brilliant's we have like a mobile app and a web app that's just like cool little like lessons. It's like opt-in educational content. So if you want to scroll on social media, you can do that. Or you can learn, physics. Either way, both accessible with your thumbs and a few taps and stuff. So yeah, I was really excited to get hired there and get to work with Aaron Streck, who's also been on the show.
Yeah. I was going to mention that. Aaron Strick was on Elm Town 57, Brilliant Ways to Use Elm. And so we talk about some of the ways that Elm is used there, but what ways in particular are you using Elm at Brilliant?
Yeah, we have a lot of, basically all of our lessons have like interactives that you can kind of play around with. So there'll be like a scale, you're learning about like, balancing things. All of those visualizations are little Elm programs, which is really cool. So I've been working on kind of upgrading those recently and making sure that they're kind of consistent with the rest of our product experience. As you can imagine, having a bunch of like dozens of these little programs, things can start to drift. So we're honing that in now and really polishing up the product. So that's been a lot of fun. But yeah, I get to work with Strick like every day, which has been great. He's first time working with him. I'd recommend it. It's pretty good. Shout out to Strick. and Jesse and everyone else at the Brilliant team. But no, really great people and a really cool product. Yeah, I'm excited about the direction it's going.
Very cool. Yeah, that sounds like a fun place to be, and a particularly the type of work that you're doing sounds like it would be fun to do. Are you working with a designer as well, or are you just kind of making it match existing designs?
Yeah, we have design, we have UX, kind of that standard product setup. But yeah, so it's not developers rolling their own styles. I think historically it might have been closer to that, but yeah, we get to work closely with people that are really thinking about that stuff, and then just kind of execute on it, which is fun. Yeah,
Nice.
really been enjoying it so far.
Working at Brilliant as a teaching platform, has that affected how you teach or approach teaching Elm to others?
It's definitely inspired me. I think a lot of the reasons like that I like applied and like looked to work there was like just the notion of including visuals when you're talking about abstract concepts is huge. So there was a version of Welcome to Elm where I was like, okay, I'll make a course platform and I'll like upload all these videos and then I'll have like little practice in it. It was like huge scope and I was like, I'm not gonna be able to wrap this up before I have a job. But like just the notion of like kind of integrating a lot of different forms of content and putting it in one spot is yeah, it's a big inspiration. And I think it's just like aligned with there's a lot of really cool like websites and things that you'll see where when they do like the interactives right. I think Red Blob Games is one of them where like when I was trying to like learn how to make like a hexagon map, they just had like article like practical examples. You could like see like different coordinate systems. It was very cool. So yeah, I definitely am aligned with them and working there is a continual source of inspiration of like something. I'll see something cool. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like that's a great way to teach X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, I just love how Brilliant is able to take something and make it so interactive where you can kind of feel by interacting with it what a concept means, right? And I think that's
Yes.
different than trying to use words and then, it takes a lot longer, I think. And maybe in some ways that's better because it's more ingrained. You find your own way there. But I guess for some folks, they may not reach that aha moment because they didn't have that interactivity. So I think having that at least as an option is nice because you just get a feel for things by actually interacting with them.
Totally. Yeah, someone shared a quote with me recently, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it was like you have to choose between like I forget, it was like engagement, like basically engaging with your learner or like having something they retain. It's like always prefer engagement because that you can't teach an empty room. You know what I mean? If you keep them around and like get them excited, and then you can build on that. But if it's just boring, people they're gonna go on TikTok, they're gonna scroll, they're gonna do something
Yeah.
else. I think that might have been a quote from the folks at Duolingo. I don't exactly remember, but that stuck with me. Yeah, if you can make it fun and interesting and like connect with the person at the human level, like oh this is like cool. I think that has a huge benefit. I think the interactives really help with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually makes me think of No Red Ink and how when you're starting out, if you've ever played around, they have a free thing you can go on there. And it's been a while since I've done it, but at the time they had it where you could go like pick the things that you're interested in. And then the questions and the way that they would put things together would be related to characters and concepts from different things that you're interested in. So like if you like Harry Potter, you like, let's just say Dracula or, Zelda, whatever it is, then you'll find those things in your content to make it more interesting to you in particular.
I think that's awesome.
Cool. Cool. Well, what picks do you have for us today, Ryan?
All right. My wife has recently read the original Dracula, like the OG Bram Stoker Dracula book. It's weird and it's cool. I can't read, but she like read it and told me what happened. It was like I'd be coding and she'd be reading it, and then she'd like, okay, and then this happened, this happened. So check out Dracula. It's actually very good. And also Dorian Gray. This was in spooky season. We were, or she was, we were reading these books. She was reading these books. But Dorian Gray and Dracula, very good classics. that you can get at a local Barnes and Noble, and a very cool. They make cool hardcover books for those. And then Veet 6.0 came out yesterday, or not yesterday to you guys, yesterday to me. But no, Veet 6.0 just came out recently, and that I don't know, the Veet community is like my favorite thing. They are all about just like embracing every tech framework and every kind of ecosystem, and really making the underlying annoying boilerplate stuff go away for everyone. Yeah, if you're not using Veet or you haven't played around it, it is a lot of fun. It's really fast, and it's I just love the people working on it. So that's my second shout out. Ocarina of Time. I waited too long to play it. It's really good. The old N64, the OG. I used to kind of bully my friend because he wouldn't stop talking about Zelda all the time. Or like, stop talking about Zelda over and over again. And then I played it, and I'm like, I get it. I get why you like this. This is very cool. I've been playing through all the classic Zelda games, the 3D ones, and it's been a lot of fun. And I do it over Discord. So I shout out to Discord. Go hang out with your friends on there, play some games, and chit chat. Stay connected with folks that move to the West Coast that you never get to see anymore, that move to the East Coast. Stay connected with your people. Play some games on Discord. And then Horizon Zero Dawn. I just beat that campaign. So that's a very visually compelling game. And then Satisfactory. Have you heard of Satisfactory, Jared? The video game automation?
Yeah. That's
you're accidentally doing math. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah. That is one that my son's into, my 8-year-old. And so, we actually first heard about it because of a song by Dan Bull, Satisfactory Night Fever, which if you haven't heard that, check that out. That was on one of the previous Elm Towns. And so, then we were like, oh, that's a game. Oh, okay. And then check that out. And it's like, building some fun stuff there. So
it is the closest thing to actually being like an engineer that I've ever played in a video game, of like optimizing, like this doesn't matter, this matters, like it's really cool. But they trick you into doing like work, which is I think it's a cool trick. That is an example of like one of the cool things I want to have in my blog, where it's just like, oh, like let's make a little, one of those games. That would be really fun to just kind of seamlessly, translate from talking about it to showing it. So that's on my list of things to do.
what number is that in the side project?
16 and a half, probably. Yeah, it's on there.
Right on. Okay. Well, so you have some book recommendations. You have now in these games. I guess my picks, the only things that I have are Elm related. It's Richard's Elm material. So for learning Elm, he has the talk teaching Elm to beginners at ElmConf 17. So if you already use Elm and know it, but you need to teach it to other folks, that's a good one to check out. If you're learning Elm, front-end master's courses, he has the intro Elm course and then an advanced Elm course as well. And then the Elm in Action book by Manning. And then, of course, Ryan's material here, Welcome to Elm series. Check out all that. I'll have links to all that stuff on here as well. So, yeah, that's everything I have. Thanks to all the folks listening out there. If you're enjoying the show, please rate and share. And thanks, Ryan, for coming to Elm Town.
For having me.